If you're building your ABA company and you're tired of guessing, this is for you. We built the BCBA blueprint to give you real structure, systems, and support without the fluff. Details are in the description.
All right, hey everybody, Derek here, and I'm with Kristen Byra, Dr. Kristen Byra, BCBA-D, BCBA-D. And Kristen is the founder of UpSkill ABA, and it's really kind of perfect timing for her to come in and start talking about the decision models, because we're talking a lot lately about our organizational strategy, how all that stuff fits together, where your org chart leads to role descriptions, leads to role manuals, leads to standard operating procedures and your policies, and how all of that leads out into two things: compliance and high quality care. And that's what we're all here about, and making your business run more effectively, helping you make those good decisions quickly without having to make a long study out of it, and just saving time for both your BCBAs, your RBT, and yourself. So with that, welcome, Kristen. Thank you very much for your time and your expertise, and we can't wait to see your UpSkill ABA solution.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. As you mentioned, I'm a BCBA-D. I've been certified for 17 years now. So I've been around the block a few times. Getting old, but that's okay.
It happens. It's better than the alternative.
With age comes experience. And so before I show you the tool, I would like to kind of talk about like how I got here, why I'm working on the work that I'm doing. I won't go through every slide here. I can make them available though if people want later. But as we see the problems in our field, when I graduated 17 years ago, there was 3,500 BCBAs, and now we are at 74th. That is a massive amount of exponential growth happening in the field. And that all came about with insurance mandates. When I was in graduate school, insurance funding wasn't available. We were either servicing kids in school, and hopefully the school district was allowing us to come in and whatnot, or parents were paying privately for the service. So while I'm glad that insurance mandates happened, it did make it difficult to try and provide all the services that were needed. And we're still behind. There's still not enough, BCBAs to go around, so to speak. But what happens is that we also have a lot of brand new BCBAs out there that may not have access to folks who have, extended experience in different areas, challenging behaviors, different disorders. So we have a bit of a disconnect about not only are there enough BCBAs to go around for kids on the spectrum, I don't think we have enough mentors to go around to those who are very new into our field. So I was really motivated to start building clinical decision models close to 9 years ago now, so that we can have a kind of a broader access to good decision-making skills through the models. And so there are some barriers in our field here to making, more informed decisions. It's because when you are working with a kiddo and you have a challenging behavior or a skill acquisition isn't going well, we are now in a medical model, and we have CPT codes that we need to utilize to bill for. And there's not a CPT code for looking up articles, for doing literature reviews, even though it's so critically important sometimes to be able to try and problem solve and find the right solution. So we have a lot of competing contingencies. If I'm supposed to hit 25, 28, 30 billables an hour, or a week rather, as a BCBA, that doesn't leave a ton of time for non-billable work if I don't want to work 60 hours a week, right? So there's a big disconnect to that, being able to access some of the information. It's very time consuming. Some articles are behind paywalls and things like that if you don't have university access anymore. So it's challenging. I mentioned I don't think there's enough mentors. Mentorship, if it's not provided by your organization, is also really expensive. If you had to pay that out of pocket yourself to continue that kind of supervision. And so I've seen that lots of folks are taking to social media on Facebook groups and things like that to get clinical advice, which can get really dangerous because you have no idea who's on the other end of that keyboard telling you how to proceed. So again, I wanted to try and solve that solution for everyone. I want us to be proactive. I want us to be not waiting the 6 months to reflect back on what went wrong. I want us to make good decisions, right away. I want to make sure we have good quality protocols in place and be able to do that. So I do want to make it clear. Some folks think, one, that clinical decision models are AI. And it's not. It is a software solution, but it's not artificial intelligence. It's also not meant to replace a clinician. So those who are utilizing the tool are still BCBAs. It's going to guide you through informed, actionable items, but it's still up to the clinician at the end of the day how they're going to approach care. So the decision model will help you get to hopefully a more informed place, but nothing's going to supplant the actual clinician doing the work, reviewing everything. So it's not a replacement to a BCBA. So what they are tools that help clinicians make decisions in a clear step-by-step way. I always am building models, not just from my own brain. It's not just, Chris said it was a good idea, so we should do it this way. I read more journal articles than I probably care to admit openly online since this is being recorded, but I do read a lot of articles. All of those articles are integrated into the models. Our CASPR guidelines, so the Council of Autism Service Providers, those guidelines are integrated. Our ethical code of conduct from the BACB, all of that gets integrated into the model. So when you're looking for solutions, it is often guiding you and redirecting you back for, hey, for additional information, come read here, or here's a citation for where this particular component came from. So we're hoping that this allows us to do client-focused care. We are looking out for the best interests from our clients from an outcome perspective. Like I said on the last slide, it is supplementing your clinical judgment. It is not replacing it at all. And it's giving you action items. So I think that a lot of times clinicians definitely understand that something's not right. I don't think that folks are handing in a treatment plan and saying, hey, look at this gold star for me. I did a really great job. I think a lot of times they know that things did not go as they originally intended. It didn't come out in the way that they wanted. And so they can identify the problem, but they don't have a solution. Go ahead, Derek. I see your hand raised.
Yeah, you're sharing your screen for the UpSkill ABA. I didn't realize you were. Oh, I think that you were sharing slides. It's all good. If you want to just click through them really quick and do a quick refresh, that's fine.
Yeah, let me reshare. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry. Sometimes Teams throws me.
It's my fault for not noticing that you.
That's okay. Yeah, sorry. When with Teams, I can't see what I'm sharing. I'm used to Google Meet, so my apologies for that. So I can go back up, or I can share the slides if you guys want them after. But I think folks can see that there's a problem with their treatment plan, with their data. Things are not going how they wanted to go, but they lack the skills to problem solve of how do I fix this? So I don't want a clinical decision model to just be a problem finder. That's part one. The second part is, hey, we found this problem. Here's how we course correct, right? Here's now the actionable statements that are going to direct you to next course of action. What do I do now? How do I fix this? What supports are available to me? I don't want anyone leaving a clinical decision model going, uh-oh, I don't know what to do now. So I want to make sure that we are able to go ahead and bring them to a place where they feel really confident in their next steps. So that's the goal. Also, this is something my advisor in graduate school always used to say, that the road to hell is paved with data that we never look at. And so another big component of the decision models is ensuring that when we are collecting data, whether that be skill acquisition data, challenging behavior data, data from a family quality of life survey, from a Vineland, that we do something with it. If we're going to take the time to do something, whether that be a clinician's time or a caregiver's time, if I'm going to make them fill out the VB map and things like that, I want to make sure that we are actually doing something meaningful with that data, because otherwise there's no point of us collecting it. So you're going to see on my website, if you visit it later, that there are solutions surrounding all these types of data that we are taking to make sure that we are utilizing in a way that leads to better outcomes for the learners that we're providing care to. And finally, my overarching question when I am building these models is, are we making progress? How do we know? And is it enough? And I think providers are very quick to tell me yes to the first question. yep, I'm making great progress. And I said, okay, how do we know? And they'll, tell me I mastered these many goals, or I got this score on a Vineland or on a VB map or an ABLES. And then I'll ask like, well, is it enough? And that's when they run the other direction. They're not feeling really confident in answering that particular component. So it's been a big mission for me at UpSkill ABA to make sure that clinicians feel really confident in answering that question. They feel confident of how do I talk to all stakeholders. So how I talk to a caregiver is going to be very different than how I talk to my insurance company, or it should be. If you guys are talking the exact same way to the funder that you are to the caregiver, you should probably step away from that model. Different metrics are going to mean very different things to a insurance provider versus your caregiver. So while you may talk about standard deviation with your insurance company, parents aren't going to care about that particular component. We want to talk a little bit differently with parents on how that looks for their child. So like I said, there's a big mission for me to make sure we can answer that last question. And then if we're not making enough, like what do we do about that? So all those components to be put in all the models. As I mentioned, there's a big umbrella of outcome measures, but one I'm going to show you today should be leading to better outcomes if we can start with quality. So Derek, if you could let me know if I pull this, now have I switched my screen to UpSkill? Okay, good.
Yep, you're
Very
on
good.
UpSkill.
Okay, so I'll just take a minute to kind of orient everyone to what they're seeing on the screen here. This is one of the decision models. I mentioned to Derek that this one is free on my website today. And so I'm very grateful to my marketing director who at the very last minute got this organized for me because I was working on this model actually till pretty late last night. So thanks very much to Matt's on the call. So thank you, Matt. You're amazing. Anyone needs marketing, go see Matt Harrington. But the orientation here, when you start this model, you don't need a login. If you go to my website and select that you want it, you're going to get a direct link to be able to access this, to start looking at your agency. How do you measure up? And as I mentioned, it's not just a score at the end. You will get a score, but it's also going to say, hey, we noticed this isn't going quite well. Here's what you should consider doing. Here's the job aid. Here's the article. Here's, a resource for you to go interact with. Because I don't want anyone coming out of this model feeling defeated of like, oh, our quality's not great. And like, that's just it. Like, we don't have the quality. I have no idea what I can do now to fix this. And then we are just feeling really deflated and terrible for the rest of the day. I want people to be empowered to say, according to Chris, like things are not going as well as they could be. Maybe we can try this. Let me go talk to my clinic director. Let me go talk to my CCO. Like, could we start maybe doing this on, a small scale and roll it out and see how it goes? But I want folks to be able to do that. So there's a disclaimer here. This is a preliminary tool. This is not guaranteed that if you get a high score in this, that everything is perfect, but it is a way to start scratching the surface at quality. So if you agree, and you're ready to start, you'll click this yes button and it'll let you move forward. Then you're going to see a series of drop downs. There's 5 sections here. The first one is on daily sessions. You're going to answer this as either yes or no. And depending on how you answer, you're going to be impacting your score at the end and also what resources become available. So if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to walk you through the questions because I want folks to understand kind of the method behind the madness here of why we're asking this. So the area is organized and necessary materials are readily available on a consistent basis. If we don't have access to materials, how are we expected to implement therapy, right? Problematic. I'm going to do like every other one of a yes and a no, just so you guys can see what happens at the end. Trial count per hour is at least 50 trials on average. I will say for me personally, my goal, I would multiply this by like 4. I would be looking at, closer to 150, 200 trials per hour, depending on, location and modality. But I know that some folks do not agree with me. And so I'm trying to set a minimum standard that everyone can be on board with. So I just want folks to understand, there's a caveat to some of these questions. I may have different higher expectations for some of the organizations that I work with, and depending on those variables, but I'm hoping that no one's going to come argue with me that 50 trials is outrageous. So if it is, come talk to me. I'd love to have a chat about that. Each open goal is run to criterion. Example of 10, there may be different criterions, but as long as we're mastering and finishing out that goal before the end of the session. Each goal is implemented at least once a session. I will, unfortunately, as my role as a consultant, will see that we have a data point on February 2nd, and then I don't see another one until February 17th. And so unless the kid went on a cruise for 2 weeks, or they've been out with, norovirus, which I know is unfortunately going around, we should be running those goals at least once a session. Preference assessments are completed at least once a day. I do see a big struggle when I talk to RBTs and I say, hey, what is this kiddo like? What motivates them? And I get responses of, well, they only like Mickey Mouse, Buzz Lightyear, whatever, the trampoline. And so that's a problem. We kind of get ourselves stuck when we say statements like that. And so chances are we just haven't done a full-on robust preference assessment. But if that's the case, have no fear, because guess what? UpSkill ABA has designed a decision model that will walk you through the appropriate preference assessment methodology for your learner based on their skills. And that changes over time. And I think sometimes folks forget that when they first come into service. Maybe a free operant is all that we can do. But as kiddos get more skills, we're able to scan arrays. We're not engaging in side biases and things like that. We have different options that allow you to give a hierarchy of those preferred items and things like that. But I see people kind of just get stuck, or we always do it that way. If anyone follows me on LinkedIn, I do have a tendency of running my mouth. One of the posts I made kind of recently was always with like a big, the red warning or do not, the no smoking red arrow through it. I get really frustrated when I always do it that way. There's not a really great reason to do an always in most situations when we're approaching client care. We want to individualize care. We want to base it on the skill set of the learner, also the skill set of the clinician. So when we get stuck in the always or the onlys, it can be problematic. SD, prompting strategy, reinforcement schedules, they're all available for all open goals. If we don't give good instructions to our BTs and RBTs, we can anticipate that they're going to be doing things with high fidelity. And then all those BTs and RBTs are familiar with the goals with the client that they're working with. Then once you've completed all the questions, it's going to say that you're done with this one session. The daily sessions is completed. It's been recorded. There's 4 sections left. And so it's prompting you to just keep going so that we can get all of the questions answered. Next one's on treatment fidelity. So fidelity checks for skill acquisition goals are implemented at least once every 2 weeks. Again, I'm a firm believer in once a week, but not everyone can maintain that kind of schedule. So it's set right now for every 2 weeks. All goals are implemented using BST, behavior skills training. Challenging behavior, we have treatment fidelity checklists for each component of those behavior plans. And the implementation of behavior plan is presented using BST. Implementation of behavior intervention plan is monitored with treatment fidelity at least twice a month. And then it's telling you that you're done with this section and that you have 3 to go. So for data analysis, making sure that we are looking at data every 10 sessions. People might fight me on this one too, but that's okay, because this one, there are plenty of research articles that tell us that we can start making decisions at 10 sessions. If anyone wants access to those, there is a publication in the links here at the end, but also feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to chat with you. All right, we have a standardized approach to RBTs to alert their supervisors of data that's not trending in the right direction. We have master criterion. Goals are at least 50%. I'd like to see this number a bit higher, but we'll meet people where they're at 50%. We have goals if they've gone on to the next authorization period without being mastered. We have some kind of barrier identified and also resolved that issue. There is a standardized way to determine the effectiveness of challenging behavior interventions. And then also these interventions selected for challenging behavior have reduced behavior to a desired level. Then it's telling you you're done with that one. There's 2 sections left. I'll go through these ones pretty quickly. Caregiver guidance. If you are a BCBA on the call, you will probably not be shocked that the caregiver guidance CPT code is one of the most underutilized codes being utilized with insurance companies. And insurance companies would very much like that to change. We want to make sure that we are providing support to caregivers so that when they leave our care, if they're in the center and going home, or when the RBT leaves the home, that we are seeing those same positive impacts with parents as well. So we make sure that we're doing caregiver guidance at least once a month. We want to make sure that they are taking data consistently. We want to make sure we are doing a survey out to parents every 6 months to make sure that they are feeling supported in our services. This one, I see a lot being missed, that we are doing some kind of structured monthly update with caregivers to make sure that we have all the relevant data for our client that we're working with. That initial assessment and 6-month follow-up talks about quality of life. And then we have also are addressing caregiver primary concerns. So now you have one session or section left, which is about supervision. So BCBAs arrive onto supervision with a structured plan. Supervision sessions involve BST. Supervision happens at least twice a month. We are looking at supervision that is what's clinically appropriate, not just the minimum 5% for RBTs. And supervision involves data analysis of each planned goal. So now you've completed all the sessions. It's asking you to move on. And when we move on, we see a total score. So there's 29 total questions for this particular one, because I kind of skipped every other one. We have 14 out of 29 as a possible score, or sorry, as that total score, which is a 48%, which puts us in that yellow zone. And then it also breaks it down by each of those 5 categories. So daily sessions, treatment fidelity, data analysis, caregiver guidance, and supervision. You can see, actually, because I did yes or no kind of split between there, we're all in that middle mark. I should have maybe, for purpose of example, given supervision all the yeses or something like that, we would have got it in the green. So it's letting you know at a high level overview, here's kind of how you measure up. But if we move on, then it's going to tell you, hey, when you didn't score very well on each section of that assessment, it's going to tell you what you could do. For the first one, we did score that as a yes, and so we are on the right pathway, but there's still going to be additional resources available to you. So in terms of all those materials being ready and available, if you have a kiddo who uses a lot of flashcards, you may consider using a product like FirstWork. It's a digitized app, which is really neat. If you click on this link, it will bring you directly to that landing page where you could do a trial and things like that. So anytime you see something that's this kind of teal color that's underlined, that means it's either a link to go to an outside resource, or it's something that you can download, so, or to schedule a call. So for this Get Ready checklist, if I click on it, it's going to download. And then I'm hoping, Derek, you now see a screen with the checklist here with UpSkill at the top. Great.
Looks
perfect. Good. Awesome. All right. So this is downloadable PDF to print and use. So this is a way to make sure that your RBTs or BTs are ready for that session across the 5 days. You can obviously modify this and add additional sections if you want to. That makes sense for your organization. If you have questions and you want to be able to come and talk with me because you want a system that extends past this, if you click on this link to UpSkill ABA, it's going to bring you to my direct Calendly link for a free 30-minute consult to move you towards quality. I mentioned there's journal articles in here, so we talked about that trial count. If you click here, same thing, you're going to be able to have that direct link to the literature article if you want to do some more readings. This is also something really useful if you have candidates. So if you are a BCBA and you have a behavior analytic trainee that's under your supervision that is working towards sitting for their exam, these are some really nice resources to work on for your unrestricted hours. So if you're thinking to yourself, oh man, I know my candidate needs some unrestricted hours this week, I'm not really sure what's appropriate. There's some great articles in here that would bring them, it will, enhance their education and bring them to a place where they are learning appropriate material. So as you go through all of the, I won't click on all the links, but for each question, there is action statements, there are resources, even if you're doing a great job. So this, if you see the great work with an exclamation point at the end, that means that you said, yes, we are indeed doing this. It's still going to let you know that there are some other things that you could do, or you can come talk to me about that as well. This one, we talked about preference assessments. It will bring you to a direct link to my website where you can learn more about the preference assessment model and be able to access it for your organization. And again, there's lots of journal or articles listed here to be able to access. So this looks very consistent for all the pages. So there's 5 sections total. All of them look like this to be able to go and read the action statement. Here's another job aid. Here's another article to come read. Here's another checklist for your agency to use. Here's an evaluation tool for either you to use on yourself or use on a candidate that you're working with. So in a nutshell, that's how the tool works, Derek.
Really brilliant. And I noticed that you mentioned another brilliant app in there with First Work. We've actually had Patrick on here doing a demo for that. What a, yeah,
Awesome.
an amazing tool. So I noticed on the last screen, it said $100 per year.
That is a special promo for the preference assessment model. It's
Okay.
$100 a year for your entire organization. So if you're like, you know what, Chris, we are really bad at preference assessments. I want to give decision models a try with like no commitment really, $100 for anyone. So if you have 5 people at your organization or you have 50, $100, right? I'm sure you spend more on coffee a week.
Yes. No, and that's a brilliant model, because I think you're going to have a lot of people showing up and actually utilizing it. But so they get access unlimited users within their organization, $100 a year, and that's the preference assessment decision model. What
Yep.
other models are there? What other levels are there that can be
Yes,
attained?
absolutely. So let me go to my website here. Let's see here. So if we go to clinical decision support systems, it's going to, so thank you, Matt. Here is the link. So if you click for the free clinical quality decision form, you can click here and be able to go and access that for free right now. And then you can see the video here. I went over kind of all the different features at the beginning, like with those slides and stuff like that. But you can see the other models listed down here. So for these other ones, they are very much outcome focused. We are wanting to, at the micro and macro level, make sure we are doing all the right things. And so in order to do a demo with these, because they do have so much IP contained in them, I do require an NDA before I'll do a demo of those ones. But right now, the red dot model, which is the progress monitoring over here, you asked me earlier, like how often do they get used and who's using them? This one is actually the RBT facing model. So the RBT is the one who fills this out. All the data they enter gets pushed to the BCBA. The BCBA gets a blueprint for supervision. That one can be used once a week, 12 times a week, 50 times a week, depending on how progress is going. And so that one, everything is based on BCBA seat price. And so even though the RBTs are using it, it's based on a BCBA. So it's $50 a month per BCBA. But if you have 5 RBTs under you, it's about $10 a month if you look at the math that way.
It's still such a nominal thing. And you said we're bad at the assessments. Like, you don't have to be bad at something to utilize this and use it to sharpen your existing procedures and your decision models. So yeah, and then $50 a month per BCBA, like that's going to knock hours a month out of their work and their decision making. So really brilliant. I don't see a reason for anybody to not have this just as a tool in your arsenal. So really cool. So how are most of your ABA clients utilizing this? Like, what kind of feedback have you gotten for, on that? I know you just launched it, but I know you've already applied this in some of your, or with some of your clients. So what are the main like key takeaways that people are getting on this? Deliverables, I guess you could call them. Like, what is the effect that you're seeing?
Yeah, so especially with the red dot model, because it is utilized by an RBT and BT, the real goal behind it, and as of right now, we're meeting it, is we wanted RBTs to feel really supported in their roles, because oftentimes we see people turn over. Like, the intention to turn over is much higher when we feel unsupported or when we feel like what we're doing is not beneficial for the client, right? It's like, why am I here today? If I started this goal like 6 months ago and we are no closer to this kid being able to tie their shoes or brush their teeth or, tell me what the thing is that I'm holding in my hand, why bother, right? So I might as well go work at McDonald's. So we really built this to try and target those two things. So when, as an organization, you say, hey, RBT, when things aren't going well at this point, you need to tell us, right? So it's not an RBT being like a squeaky wheel or like a pain or a pest. It is us saying, please tell us, this is a problem. We want to know about it. We're going to be excited that you're telling us, not like annoyed and unhappy. But when we are intervening so quickly, we're also seeing good progress. And then we're seeing RBTs like, oh, wow, like, oh, we're doing the thing. We are doing the thing, right? And that is incredibly rewarding as an RBT to be the first one to hear them say like, what is it? And they're like, ball or whatever, whatever the toy is. And it's like, like, wait, like I was a key like implementer here. Like I I am a major force for why this kid is able to do the thing that they're doing. And we're not seeing that when we go 5 months with no progress, right? So we are seeing that when folks are utilizing this red dot system, we are empowering RBTs. We are getting BCBAs, prepared for supervision. I see a lot of BCBAs do what I call showing up for supervision. So I'm looking at the time. Oh, I've got supervision in, 10 minutes. I'm grabbing my Stanley and my laptop, and I'm, running down the hall to the, whatever room I'm supposed to be in. I'm opening my laptop and start a session note so I can bill. Oh, but this email just came up, or this team chat, and oh, I'm still kind of attending, sort of, right? Because I get it. There's a lot of fires going on all the time as BCBA. I was a clinician for a long time. So I get it. It is not lost on me how busy BCBAs are, how many directions they get pulled in all the time. I'm not trying to, talk smack on BCBAs. I am one. I get it. But I think if we can support BCBAs, so when they go to that session and we say, hey, this program, this goal is going nowhere fast, or we're having all this challenging behavior now that anytime I ask them to engage with this puzzle or whatever it is, they're throwing stuff at me. Guess what? RBT over here, I'm not doing this program anymore, right? Yep. So if we can tell a BCBA before they come to supervision, well, me as a BCBA, I now know, well, dang it. As soon as I get in there, I'm going to bring out the puzzle. I want to see what happens firsthand. I'm going to coach you through this. So now you are not just left on an island with the puzzle thrower and, for another 2 weeks until I see you again. That's the intention there.
This is a double-edged sword as far as a weapon for an ABA owner to have in their arsenal, right? Or in your toolbox, right? And we always look at, how can we tip the work environment 1% in our favor? What can we do to improve by 1%? Once you have everything set up and your business is operating, you're constantly looking for these little ways that you can tweak things. And just because if you can get your RBT to stay 10% longer than normal,
right,
that's a huge, huge impact on what you're investing in your training costs, right? If you can make your onboarding process 10% easier, right, or 10% more informative, you're going to tip the scale, 1% over towards your retention efforts. The other edge of this sword is that you're improving your outcomes. You're expediting those milestones that we're looking for to make progress. And then that feeds into the RBT's positive experience at work. That's two areas right there that you're going to tip the scale a lot more than 1%. And for $100 a year and then $50 a month for each BCBA, it's a nominal investment for a major impact on your business. So, and this is perfectly integrated with what we've been talking about on the group. Over the last couple of years, we've worked with hundreds of ABA businesses, and what's missing from a lot of them, or most of them, is that organizational strategy, that foundation that they need to really build policies and procedures from. And this integrated with your standard operating procedures and giving them an actual decision model that they can go through and track what their progress and what their outcomes are is huge. And also right back to the role description of the RBT. There's a lot of KPIs that you can get from this system where you can tell what's happening, right? This should be involved in the game that you set up at your business. This is a tool where you can gamify things. And when you're deciding on RBT of the month, this is where you're going and looking. You're seeing the progress. You're seeing who's really getting those milestones and making that progress with each client. Who shows up on time to work, who's pushing themselves to get better results for the clients. And we have a system to track that by. So that's really important.
Right.
Super
and
important.
on my roadmap, within a month, we should be integrated with Power BI. There is some dashboarding in the internal system, but if you're familiar with Power BI, that's just dashboard on steroids. So we will be pushing everything to dashboard. So when you're looking at, progress monitoring, you can do a very honed in, with this client, how's it going? Then you can hone into how's it going with this BCBA? How's it going with one clinic? How's it going in this region of clinics? How's this state going? If you're a multi-state organization, how's Arizona going versus Texas? You can, zoom in and zoom out very easily when you're using dashboards in Power BI. So,
and I don't want to roll past this. This is super important. important. So if anybody who's watching this video doesn't know what Power BI is, but that is a Microsoft 365 application that allows you, and BI stands for business intelligence, right? And this allows you to build your dashboards and really see your business from a perspective of a CEO or a BCBA. You can build these dashboards for your people and see those numbers, right? So we have our dashboard set up, like we can see everything from call volume to how long it takes to respond to calls, and it's red, green, yellow, right? And you can lay out these things. You can see those alerts. You can see all those stats on your dashboard. And utilizing Power BI from a financial standpoint, operations, and then clinical, where you have this integration, which I haven't seen anywhere yet. That's amazing. So really, I think that's a bigger selling point than you gave yourself credit for, Kristen.
I just love data. Like, I'm a data junkie. You know, if I could marry data and sleep with it under my pillow, I would, as long as you use it, right? Because that road to hell is paved with data if you don't look at it. So
yes.
Again, if we're going to be collecting all this data, which we are, pushing it into a dashboard where we can put a real pinpoint on where is the problem, right? Because let's say I do have 3 clinics in Phoenix, right? I'm from Arizona, so everyone usually knows where Phoenix is. And so if I have 3 different clinics in Phoenix and I see that 2 of them have, very minimal, problematic programming, cool. But I see this one clinic is struggling. Like, then I know as a chief clinical officer or as a regional manager, I need to go bring some resources there, right? Like, let me help them. Like, what's solve the disconnect? Like, what's the problem here? How can I go and make this clinic stronger so that we're not having, a bunch of problematic programs? Because I don't think any BCBA goes home that night and they're like, oh, I hope my kid does better. Like, they want them to do well, right? Like, I don't think anyone has malintentions when programming is not going well. I don't think any of them are just like, throwing stuff in the trash, like, oh, well, like maybe better next time. I think everyone actively wants to do better. And I want to give them the skills and the resources to be able to do that. So that's what I've been trying to achieve.
It's a lofty goal, but you've done a lot here to help a lot of BCBAs. So this is really an awesome tool, and I'm excited to watch it grow. Like, you already have stuff coming out in your roadmap. That'll be amazing. So keep us posted. Make sure you keep us, when new things come out, definitely come back and update us on your progress as you're building this out. So if anybody has any questions, you can drop them in the chat. Matt commented, the system also shows when quality is not so good and teach you how to fix it. And that's important. It goes right to what Kristen was just saying about being able to visualize your stuff in Power BI and be able to see by location, by BCBA, by BT. That's really an awesome deal. So it doesn't look like we have any questions, but Kristen, thank you very much for your time. This is what this group is all about. And I hope you guys have learned something useful here. Go out and get upskill. This is amazing. So it's upskillaba.com. And again, thank you everybody for showing up, and we'll see you on the group feed.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
You're already doing the work, investing your time, your energy, and your vision. So let's make it count. Build something that works without breaking you. The eBCBA Blueprint is the way. Get started for free with our foundation course.